Okay, so hi everyone. This is Harshala here, and we are live for our Merrative Reading Room session for Zoobiquity, which is a very unique book. And I basically discovered this book via the YouTube. YouTube Originals has this concept called BookTube, and there I saw what the concept is. Basically, they had the author Barbara Horowitz along with some famous YouTubers who were related to, let's say, animals or were related to books, had come together and they were basically discussing the whole concept and what the book was about. And it was a very fun session, and that's how it came discovered and came across this book. And then I was like, okay, I really think that we should be discussing, we should read this book. And she spoke a lot about how healthcare could actually go much ahead if we could just see and at least understand and go much beyond than what we already know about animals and the zoo kingdom. And so that's when I put across, like, let's have a reading room session on that, and you all have joined for the same. So I'm Harshala, and I founded Merrative. And basically, I like reading a lot of non-fiction books and even books like Zoobiquity. So I keep finding, books that are particularly would increase my knowledge. By non-fiction, I don't like self-help. I hate them. I find them very weird. But anything apart from self-help, I am, game on for when it comes to non-fiction. And let's start with introduction of Gautam. What kind of reader you are? I'm from Mumbai, by the way.
Uh, yes, I'm Gautam and I'm from Mumbai as well. So I have a book lovers group community where I have 3,500 members, as well as I
Wow,
have shared more than 10,000 books, and there are a lot of book discussions that I conduct in the forum as well. We have at least
that's great.
one discussion every fortnight.
Wow.
So
Oh
I am
wow,
into self-help books, that is about Robin Sharma and Jay Shetty, and I'm also into political thrillers. Like
yeah,
if you see Shri Iyer's book, uh, the book is NDTV frauds and how the my money turned white,
hmm, yeah,
and also into books that are related to history, culture, like, and into spirituality as well. Uh, if you see the books of Devdutt Patnaik,
yeah. Mythology.
Mhm.
mythology, yes, and even discussion of books that are purely into fiction, like Chetan Bhagat's book on one arranged marriage, cut murder, and even into some other books like management books and business books, like if you see Who Moved My Cheese
Yeah,
Yeah.
and The Parable of the Pipeline. So books of all sorts. There is no restriction on the type of books that we discuss. We discuss all the books, and I'm from Mumbai. I have completed my MBA in marketing, and loving this community of discussing on books and getting to know more. And this book especially has created a lot of impact on my psychology, because
yeah,
all the we think that we are the only species who are capable to live on Earth, but this book tells us that we are the co-partners with our fellow other species.
exactly. Yeah, great. Let's start with the Booker's Diary, Manav.
All right. Hi, everyone. So, I run a community called the Bookers Diary. We are currently 4,700 strong,
Wow,
and hope
amazing.
keep getting stronger over time. I do primarily book reviews, book promotions, editing, whatnot. I have been diving deeper into more and more uh, things I can do with respect to book writing, book publishing. Basically, the whole vision that I have as the Booker's Diary is to give authors a platform to showcase their books. So, and not just authors. So, like, there are a lot of great books written by debut authors, small time authors, and they don't really come that much out into the picture because the market is primarily overshadowed by the bestsellers. So I like to believe that I'm contributing in that way. Like Gautam, I am also an MBA in marketing, proud to be one. And and so coming to Zoobiquity now, I really find the idea of evolution very fascinating, which is why I loved Sapiens as well. And I'm not just talking about biological evolution. There's also evolution of civilization, and I personally find it very fascinating how we evolved from a single cell organism to what we are today, and this is not the final stage as well. I mean, we are continuously still evolving, and probably 50 60,000 years down the line will look completely different. So I find that idea very interesting, very unique, and which is why when I saw your post about Zoobiquity, I thought, yeah, this is something I definitely need to check out.
Yeah. Great, great. So, really happy to have all of you here, and I'm so glad to see that all three of us had a very similar mindset when we picked up this book. That we were interested in, and also there was a change in mindset as well, because that was the case with me as well. When I read this book. So, coming back, I'll just give a very brief, review or a summary sort of about this book. Though I have finished till seven chapters, which is about the fat, about the weight, and yet I'll be at least trying to tell you what this book is about, what the essence of it is about. So basically, Barbara, along with Catherine, they discovered that there is she's a cardiologist, Barbara, and she discovered that the more she was trying to find out about the similarities between animal kingdom across a lot of spectrum, be it psychology, be it as simple as weight gain, as simple as even sex, and she has, the more she was digging in, she discovered that we are actually a lot more similar, and she has really taken down, I would say, it at multiple places about the kind of not discrimination exactly, but how the the doctors which basically are specialized in human treatment are not really considering the kind of treatments that veterinarians do across a wide range of species. And even though there is a lot of similarity in terms of the diseases, and in terms of even psychologically, things that are happening across all the species, be it birds, be it insects, be it are as casual as dogs and cats. She has completed a wide range of ecological factors, and the most important thing about this book, and why anyone should really read this, is that it will really open up your mind, if you are, and it will not, it will enable that factor, of not having any sort of bias whenever you're looking at anything. And if you're looking at, I won't say this is self-help, but it does give you a good perspective.
Right.
And if you're looking for a book which will give you a good perspective, which is not fiction, which is not self-help, but is actually fact-based, then I would definitely, recommend to read this. And I would also recommend you to check the BookTube episode by YouTube Originals with Barbara Horowitz. She is over there and she's explaining a lot more. It's a very fun episode, short, and I think it would give a lot more to check out as well. So let's start with the discussion, and let's go ahead with that one. I'll start with the first point that we have. So, the first thing that the point is basically the role of natural selection in human emotions. The idea that our genes being a culmination of multiple ancestral, it goes for a very it ranges from a long time, maybe from the start as well. And Biology is Destiny by Wilson. This is also something that I discovered in the early chapters. I was fascinated by the starting of the book itself. I was like, this thing about the thing that Wilson said. I was completely blown away. I had also come across an article on the same, which is by TED Talks. I mean, the TED had an article wherein they mentioned this very stark reality that our thoughts, our behavior, it's not just the looks, but also the way we think, our memories uh, are actually because of our genes. And it culminates from a long time. If we say that we behave like our parents, we behave like a grandfather, some behavior pattern we might be having. That article was also I would recommend to see as a supplement for this. So I would like to know your thoughts as well as to what you think about this whole uh, about natural selection and the whole concept of genes that Wilson and Barbara have been talking about,
Mhm.
and multiple places I think in the book. Let's start with Manav.
All right. So I like the point where you said natural selection is actually more manipulating our emotions, and I think the best example for that would be reproduction. So biology, evolution has programmed us to love our kids the moment they are born. So at this point, maybe you hate kids, you don't want to have kids, but the moment you have one, biology will force you to start loving that kid. And here's how it works. Uh, so the theory is that parents who had offsprings and did not love their kids, that gene pool did not survive for long because they were not able
Yeah,
to take care of those kids, and that resulted in them dying early. Compared to those parents who loved their kids, were protective of them, and kept them safe from uh, what's the word I'm looking for, predators. Which is how. So this is one example of how evolution has taught us to love our kids.
yeah, definitely. And the most important aspect I think she really spoke about was how uh, all the things that we are experiencing is actually destined. So if one is saying that destiny is written, probably it's written in the form of genes, and that was very fascinating. What do you think, Gautam, about this?
See, if you see genes, then uh, human beings have 98.6% similarities as compared to
Yeah,
chimpanzees.
Right.
definitely.
So, and what it also means is, ma'am has taught about how the infections and toxins they pass on from generation to generation. That is, the the genes that we pass on to our children will be different from the genes that we have inherited. And
Right.
ma'am has also talked about capture myopathy. That is,
Yeah.
when you capture a bird, even if a bird or animal, even if you are not causing any harm, they may die because of shock.
Yeah.
The similar situation is experienced by was also experienced by humans when they told that there was an earthquake in a place in US. So
Yeah.
yeah, people there got heart attack.
Yes, shock
Uh,
based.
yeah, that
Uh,
is shock based.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So when you talk about capture myopathy, uh, if you keep a fish at home as a pet in a bowl, that fish dies quickly. Like for example, take a goldfish. Within a few weeks, no matter how good you take care of it, within a few weeks or maximum a few months, it dies. But in the wild, goldfishes are much bigger in size, and they tend to live for a couple of years.
hmm, yeah, definitely. So, also one more thing, this when like I had studied biotechnology in 11th and 12th, and this I think probably not just in terms of behavior, but the obvious facts. I think in the cancer chapter where she focused on cancer, it was mentioned that it's been going on since so many years. Like she literally said, I think millions was the number. That it's a very old disease, and even today it persists, and even today we don't have any much cure about that disease, and that whole thing is gene based, and probably that disease has been culminating, throughout these years as well, and it has evolved, and we were not able to stop it like other diseases, and because of that it still grows deadly, and still it is able genes are able to just completely change themselves because of whatever external factors that she had, human or natural factors that she had mentioned about. Great. I'll. Do you guys have anything else to add on, or else I'll move to the next point?
Yeah, I have two lines to add on that. There was a Peto's paradox that was discussed in the
Yes.
cancer chapter, where
Yes.
it was told that large species seem to get less cancer.
Yeah, that was very fascinating. She compared whales and us, in fact, and dogs, and that was very fascinating to see how. I'm not sure if she mentioned the reason behind that. I think that's still a mystery, right? If I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
but actually it is contrary to our popular belief because the larger the species, the cells multiply in a more huge way.
Right.
And
Yeah,
uh, also there was a talk about how tattooing may be linked to the rare form of skin cancer. We today do a lot of tattooing, right?
yeah.
It's a fashion statement in today's times, but it is linked to a skin cancer.
Yes, yes. A lot of skin cancer occurs because of the things that we use on our skin. I think she brilliantly explained the cancer chapter so well. I think like having studied that for 2 years when I was in school. I think she also the book, like, she has completely, I would say, I wouldn't say dumbed down. She has not dumbed it down or something. Definitely, it's more like she has explained it really well. And even she has added points. After every chapter in very small letters, which explains more about certain aspects that she has written in the book, which I really liked. Great. Anyone else want to add anything?
Uh,
Nothing from my end.
should I add on obesity, chapter number 8?
I didn't get you.
Should I talk about chapter number 8, which talks about obesity?
Yeah, sure, sure. Do let
So
us know.
that we are not the only people who are getting fat day by day. It's as well as the
Yeah,
wild animals and pet animals.
yeah,
In case of pet animals, when we keep our dogs and cats, the pet owners tend to feed them more because they think they are loving them more. But
yeah.
but that's not the case. Actually, they are harming them. And
Yes.
in US, Mammoth quoted a statistics that is 25 to 40% of pets are obese. But when
Hmm.
it compared to the human beings, it is 70%.
Yeah. She also
And
mentioned a really great point and probably a very eureka moment. If you want to remove your obesity, just change your environment. And it's actually not our fault, but it's our environment's fault that one is being obese. And that's also something I really liked in that
a
chapter.
classic example that ma'am gave was even after the operations, the physicians they ordered a pizza and coke.
Hmm.
That is what they did. And this obesity, it is a trigger to cause other diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular problems, musculoskeletal disorders, glucose intolerance, and some other cancers as well, and
Hmm. Yeah.
even high
Yeah.
blood pressure.
Yeah.
And we are ourselves responsible for our ever expanding waistline, which is going on
Yes.
expanding.
Right.
I think that's very much more evident because of pandemic also. Everyone is sitting at home, gorging food. My food intake has definitely increased because of the pandemic. Definitely, I'm eating much more than usual, and it's also very erratic. It has become very erratic. Sometimes I eat more, sometimes I eat less. So I don't know. And then when I read that line, change your environment, is when I was like, okay, I need to go out, but then I can't go out a lot also. So yeah, that kind of
I believe
I
this is a
felt
unique
attacked.
situation in that case. You want to change your environment, but you're not able to because you go out, you'll fall sick. So
Hmm.
I think we are in a very unique environment right now, which is very difficult to get out of. But having said that, there are a couple of things that we can do within our house. Like what I personally have been trying to do, not very, haven't really reached where I wanted to. But what I have been trying to do is, control myself from reaching out. So basically, what you do is you introduce barriers. So I've
Yeah.
put all my junk food inside a cabinet, So I don't want to go. I'm a lazy guy, so I don't want to get up, go open the door. So I tell myself, "Kya karega? Just let it be."
That's a good trick. Yeah,
Yeah.
even I don't feel like getting up, so I'm definitely using that trick. Great. So, moving on to the next point, hierarchy and negligence of vets in a doctor's world, a physician, and this is a very great point mentioned in that book, which was also a eureka moment for me. A physician being a vet who can treat only one species. With this one single sentence, she reduced the importance of a human physician to literally nothing less, and I literally laughed a lot. I think we have lost.
I think we lost him.
I think we lost him. Okay, I guess I'll just give what I think about this point. Yeah, I definitely think that with one line she has reduced this particular, uh, the particular doctor, this human doctor, into something that is, and she has raised the vet to a whole new level. And I literally had this huge, massive respect in my heart of the vet who actually has to study a lot of species, especially the ones we domesticate and or the ones which are our pets and all. And they are expected to know a lot of them. Probably masters they are not, but at least on the basic level they are expected to know a lot about a lot of things. And they are probably what we call true generalists. Uh, and not really specialist, and it's really in a lot of positions in the book she has mentioned about how the vets. I think in one of them, in a conference, there was a scene of conference. She mentioned that it was about high profile physicians, and one popular vet had was present over there, and it was about the it was the in the cardiac chapter, and there she the one of the doctors, I mean the vet said that he doesn't feel really, I think, fit into this whole conference as such. But then one fine doctor really comes and asks him about the cardiac problem in animals. In one particular animal, I'm not able to remember exactly, but she asked, and when they discovered that, I think it was for dogs itself, and then they discovered the gene therapy with the dog, for the cancer part, if I'm not wrong. That's when the whole thing started. One simple question to a vet actually led to treatment of dogs for a particular type of cancer for a particular type of dog in that chapter, which is so good. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Very interesting. So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, uh, a physician knows only one type of animal, and a vet
Yeah,
knows more than one. But a flip way of looking at it is that humans are the dominant species, right? I mean, we are the we are, at least currently, we are the only self-aware species that are there, and because of that, we have to learn how to treat ourselves and the animals as well. So you don't have a dog who's a doctor of a dog. That doesn't happen. Dogs don't have that level of intellect or that level of understanding. Maybe you can train them, but at the end, it'll be you who's training them. So, humans' first priority is other humans. It might sound a little arrogant, but that's how it is.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's how it is.
our first priority is another human. Even if you look at vets today, very few people actually become a vet because they always dreamt of being a vet. Uh, they initially started like, I'll be a doctor, and then somewhere down the line something happens, and that's where they become vets. No disrespect to any of the vets out there. I love your job. Because I had a pet rabbit, he was sick, and the only one who could fix him was a vet and not a physician. So
Yeah,
I really respect doctors, that doctors as well as vets equally that ways.
yeah. Yeah, that's great example you've given of your own rabbit. I mean, I think you might have heard her so frantically also, and about the injections that has to be given. I think my friend had a dog, and he tells me about how all the things that they have to do for the dog,
Yeah,
from the heat part to the giving injections, vaccines, and they also have their own cycles, I think,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
respect to all these things, and they are the only ones who can do it. And if they're living 5-10 kilometers away from your house, you have to travel 5-10 kilometers away from the house. That's it. So Yeah, but what I really found fascinating also in this book is that Barbara mentioned that once upon a time we weren't having this sort of a distinguishing border between the physicians, the human physicians, and the doctors. I think in some aspect, in the starting aspect, she mentioned that, and she didn't really mention the reason as to why this divide really grew. But apparently, long back we weren't doing that. We were actually consulting vets, about probably this might have been the reason because the diseases were so new before, and we were not very good with in terms of healthcare, new and or the vaccination and stuff like that. That we had to ask, and probably all the doctors collaborated at that point of time to share knowledge with respect to what animals are doing. Do we have this disease is happening in animals? And if yes, how do they naturally cope it up with it? And then they were probably deriving some solution from that, I guess. But as time passed by, our diseases have decreased. We have managed to eradicate diseases like let's say smallpox and polio, and right now even I think obviously we are going to win over coronavirus as well. So with the vaccine part, so I think somewhere down the line, maybe since we have reduced the iterations and conquered some health issues, and it's only the things like cancer and heart and disease and all are what are probably primarily out there, that we are not consulting them anymore. And then this is and it goes on, right, just like genes, it passes on from one generation to another, and probably the divide grew much more wide. And now I think because of Barbara, she has picked up a great mission to really do not have this gap with her book, and I really hope a lot more people read that. So what should we do about so Gautam is here, but he's not in over here. He's in the attendees.
Oh, yeah, I can see three people, but I can't
Yeah.
see his profile.
Backstage. Are you able to join? I've messaged him.
Mhm. I think it's really fascinating how you said that maybe initially we were all, I mean, a human doctor and a vet were the same person. I think that divide, like, I am looking at it from a different angle. I feel that divide probably came from a psychological viewpoint. Today, also, if you look at, if you talk to people, a lot of them feel that, they are very different from animals. They are not the same. Animals
Hmm.
and human beings are vastly different, and the creator did not, God did not make us that way. So, which is why we are completely different. And I think that is one of the base reasons why probably that divide occurred in the first place. A human doctor is different from all the other animals. Otherwise, ideally, we should probably have had a dog doctor, a cat doctor, a horse doctor separately. And maybe in the veterinarian world, they do have that kind of a specialization. I am not aware of it.
Yeah.
But I think that is, in my opinion, or it, like if I think about it, I think that is what might have happened.
Okay. So his laptop's charger has burned.
Oh,
Okay. So he's not able to join. 1 minute. I'll just answer him.
sure, sure, sure.
Okay. So I don't think he'll be able to join, but I think we'll continue then. The third point, which is has a dominance in food chain led to shared diseases between animals and humans and animals? So I raised this point because in all the chapters I was noticing the same thing happening again and again. That she was able to crack some of the other similarities between our species and their species, be it even behavior or be it food or be it even in terms of the health. Major, she's picked up the generalistic one. I think like heart, fat, and all those things, and not really the deep rooted ones, which makes us different, I guess. But I started feeling this one point in which she mentioned about food was that we are on the top of the food chain. She mentioned that we are on the top of the food chain, and we do eat or interact with all these animals. And I started wondering that if this is what is actually leading us to have these sort of shared diseases and shared behavioral traits in first place, or is it very intrinsic to all species? Our behaviors, like for example, the sex part she mentioned, the homosexuality part she mentioned,
Mhm.
and the thing about obesity. If since they have these seasonal changes, so they have this different in weight ranges. This is not the case with us because probably we are on the top of the food chain. So we for us, obviously the ones living in let's say Arctic ranges or the Nordic regions, for them the food cycle is also much different than what for Indians are. Where food probably might be abundant, I guess. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but yeah. So, what do you think about this particular aspect?
I find it interesting. I personally do not believe that it's because we are at the top of the food chain. I mean, Barbara must have done a lot
Mm-hmm.
more research than I have. I'm just speaking off the top of my head. But I believe the shared diseases happen not just because we eat those animals, right? I mean, okay, so it's a good thing you brought it at this point of time. Coronavirus is basically a virus that crosses the species barrier, and it can cross not just another animal to humans. I mean, viruses regularly keep crossing the species barrier as they mutate, and every year we have a lot of new coronaviruses that keep
Yeah, SARS.
in the barrier, for example, SARS, but not a lot of them are as severe as this, because this one has a very high infection rate, whereas the other are more high on the fatality rate part. So before the patients can affect anybody else, they die. But having said that, it's not just eating a bat or some other animal. For example, if you take the Nipah virus, which happened in Kerala, that did not happen because we were eating a bat. What happened was an infected bat ate a fruit, and the fruit fell down, and we ate that fruit. That is how the virus got into our system.
Oh, okay.
So it's not necessary that eating because we are at the top of the food chain, we are more susceptible to shared diseases. Shared diseases can happen at any point of time. They keep happening all the time. And to talk about shared behaviors, I think that's something really interesting, and I think that is one solid proof that we have a connection to the animals. We have come from, you know, they were our past. We came from apes. Apes came from somewhere else, and that is how we share that same level of gene, the flight and fight response, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's embedded in everybody's gene, not just humans, not just animals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, right. Yeah, that's a very good point. The cancer one, I think, is there in all the. I forgot the exact name. Bark, something from B, I think it was. That is present in all the species, and that's why we have this shared cancer thing in across plants, across animals, across water-based animals, birds, and everyone.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that's definitely not a part of the food chain thing. Great. I'll move on to the next one. The idea of all living organisms, including plants, are long lost relatives. So, this is also one line she mentioned in one of the chapters, and that was very fascinating to me. That she is actually saying, because of course we all originated from some particular cell,
Yeah.
some amoeba or whatever bacteria, and we have grown to such huge this whole zoology thing, from plants to animals, from these things, and we share so many similarities with, like Gautam said, the 99 point, I think, 3 or 4% is same, and literally the only other part, probably I think 90% of the genes are same across all species, and it's just that 10%. Sorry if my facts are wrong, but I'm very sure the maximum, more than 70 to 80% is same, and it's the rest is what 10 to 25 whatever percent makes all the difference, and in such huge ways. So when she mentioned that we're actually long lost relatives, it was very difficult to fathom, knowing the differences that we all have, and the differences have grown only wider, or probably because of a book might grow smaller, I guess. I'm not sure, but yeah, this was a fascinating point about that. What do you think about it?
That makes a lot of sense, because to me, if you look at now, the reason why we have so many different species, we have so many different types of animals, is because that one cell, after multiplying those, let's say one cell multiplied into three, now those three cells had a different way of coping up with this, with the
With
stimulus
the
that they were
environment.
facing, with the environment, and which is why they evolved in different ways. And that is how you have fishes, you have trees, you have humans, you have animals. And I think yeah, I mean, in one aspect, we might be, all related, like being distant relatives. And I think that probably that is where spirituality also comes into picture,
Yeah.
right? The whole idea of spirituality is that we are all connected, we are all one, the tree of life. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I recently read this docu series called "The Great Minds," the Great Ancient Minds. I think it's by BBC.
Hmm.
Ancient minds as well as modern minds. So the ancient ones includes Socrates, Buddha, and Confucius,
Confucius.
and Confucius. Yeah, and then the modern ones I think included Sigmund Freud and who was Karl Marx and Nietzsche. So, and all these from the ancient, all these six people are saying the same thing actually, that we all are connected, whether it's the ancient one, whether it's Buddha or it's, they focus only on Buddha in terms of religion.
Hmm.
Socrates and all were not very religion specific, they were just philosophers. But they
Philosophy.
all three said the same thing, that we all are interconnected, all related. And that's why this book I felt was more, this was not philosophical really, but it was more or less on the same line, scientifically giving proofs of what these people, these philosophers were saying, kind of is so true, that whatever we do with our surroundings and all is what comes back or whatever. And since we are so interconnected, we need to be careful of what we do, what we eat, and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
so. Yeah, true. Socrates, Buddha, they might not have had the technical
yeah.
technology at that time to prove their thoughts and ideas, but yeah, definitely they might have been onto something.
Yeah, yeah. His Buddha's life is very fascinating. He probably starved himself before he got enlightened. That uh, uh, I'm not very sure what exact incident was. It was about tightening a rope, wherein if it's too loose, it won't fit. If it's too tight, it will break. And that's when he came to know that him fasting till death is actually not the answer. Is not going to give him the answer, and then he started finding the balance, and then he discovered that everything is so much related. So yeah, definitely fits into that thing.
Hmm.
Moving on to the next point, this was from the chapter fainting one, fight, flight, or faint. Did you ever think that an act of fainting would have a protecting function? What was the idea of fainting? So it's like, I thought personally that fainting was because I knew that it was because of some, you're not having enough oxygen and everything, but it being a measure of protection, of because it's like it's a laptop getting switched off. When there's something wrong happening and your laptop just goes off, and I could relate it to that in the technological aspect as well. So I didn't know it had a protective function. So it was fascinating to me to hear that we actually faint because we are sensing some form of danger, some sort of change in environment, because of which there's reaction in our body, and then instead of running away, probably your body thinks that it's better to switch this organism off, and it just dies off, and not really dies, but it's more or less. And I also had this conflicting part of the fainting with the cardiac arrest one, the cardiac one, in which Barbara mentioned that because of fear we have this cardiac arrest from animals to kids, babies, and everything. But this is also concept of fainting. So I don't know. I have not finished the book, so I don't know if in the further chapter she has mentioned the differences when we faint and when we have the cardiac arrest. But yeah, it was new to me to see that fainting has a protective thing. So did you? What was your idea of fainting before this?
Honestly, I was very confused when I read that, because to me, fainting was all about. So you faint, you lose consciousness, so you don't know what's happening around you, and you're very vulnerable. Uh, if I think about it now while discussing with you, maybe in one way, fainting might be protective, but not in the sense that you're in danger of being attacked by a predator or someone, but more as a defensive mechanism to conserve your health, conserve your energy. For example, alright, when I was a kid, I fainted in my school assembly, and that was because I became very tired. So I believe maybe it could be your body's reaction to prevent yourself from losing all the energy in your losing all the energy in your cells. If that happens, you die. So perhaps if I think about it, it might be one of those, and that is the only way I can explain how fainting might be protective in nature in one way. Because if I'm being attacked by a predator or an animal or a tiger, uh, I don't think fainting will help me. I need to get out of there. You know.
Yeah, definitely. And at that point of time, but yeah, I have, if I'm not wrong, these tiger lions, they don't eat dead carcasses. I'm not sure. They're
That
not like
is, yeah,
hyenas and
that
all.
is what I've read. Yeah, true, true, true.
Yeah. Probably when that happens, and if you fall dead or something, they might think that you're dead. They might sniff you and see if you're fresh or not. But of course, if you faint, you will be fresh. You just faint immediately.
Yeah, you're still
You're
alive.
not really dead. Yeah.
Exactly, true,
So that's a very, very weird, I think, defense mechanism, which I didn't know was a defense mechanism. But in humans, if you see, most of the times I've seen fainting because of some extra thing happening, like extra sunlight, a stroke. It's probably that's where the protectionism does come into picture, because your body is like, there's too much of sun. Let's switch you off and not be rot conscious. Save your energy
true.
and
True.
let's faint her up so that she can be taken to hospital and whatever different environment. Probably
Yeah,
it's a sign of us saying that you need to change your environment, you need to check up yourself, and your first signs of having a disease or something like that.
true. And
Maybe
I think
that's
I've seen that in animals too. Like, I don't want to sound like a psychotic guy, but when I see a insect in my house, my first response is to kill it. So if I see a cockroach in my
everyone.
house, and if the cockroach realizes that I've seen, like, that's my assumption. Obviously, I don't know what the cockroach is thinking, but if the I am assuming that if the cockroach realizes that I'm seeing him, he'll stop there, hoping that I'll think he's dead, and I'll just go away.
Yeah.
Uh, that's my assumption. So, like I said, I don't want to sound psychotic, but I think before I'm about to kill him, he tries to feign like he's dead already.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but that's the normal. I mean, everybody kills cockroaches. But cockroaches are very smart, I think.
Yeah.
They are actually very smart. Also, to add, like, totally different point, but I had shared a video on the group about a thought experiment on a crow, which was very fascinating. What they did was, crows are a nuisance, but what they did, they trained crows to pick up. They created a slot machine that when you add a stone to that machine, you get the food out.
Oh,
And
yeah, I saw that.
what they decided was that, what, we'll ask them to pick up garbages. We can ask them to for surveillance because they have a very good memory apparently. And when they put the garbage in the slot machine, they get food. So that way, people can collect, these things and stuff like that. So that's where I read that.
I saw
Um,
that. That was brilliant. How they trained crows
yeah,
to dispose of bottle caps.
yeah,
I think that
yeah,
was a brilliant
definitely.
idea.
That was a brilliant idea, right?
Yeah,
And I didn't know. I knew crows were shrewd. I thought they were like probably intelligent than the other birds, but I didn't know that they were so much intelligent than the other birds.
yeah,
It's a vast difference, I feel.
true.
Great. Coming to the sixth point, do you think that the ubiquitous approach will lead to more animal testing and gene manipulation? Even in the dog example that I gave in the cancer chapter, it was actually manipulating genes, right? And we have these designer babies and all. We are far way more ahead when it comes to the gene therapy and everything, and it's to the point which, if probably what was even considered 100 200 years back, it would have had been easily a taboo, like you cannot do that. And even today I think it is, but But because I remember that that Chinese guy had designed two twins, and he was put into jail, and what I don't know what happened to him, but it was a controversy. It was not a celebration for
Mhm.
sure. So but what I felt after this chapter was that if we again start to think that we need to move towards animals to see how to get our answers to our diseases, then don't you think that there will be a lot of more cruelty? I remember the rat chapter, in which she stressed on the rat and how they were being tested. I was like, okay, rat testing to hota rehta hai. But then she clarified that, and then she mentioned about dogs. Since dogs live with us, we need to breed them to make up a gene pool almost similar like how we did with rats, and then experiment or at least finances with them. And then she clarified that I don't promote dog testing on dogs and all. And that's when I put out this question, actually, that what dogs weren't being used for our treatments, I think, I guess, as per pharma knowledge. But now you are putting up this idea that we should do that because we stay with them. And of course, I'm not sure how PETA and all are going to react this. What do you think about that?
I think it's an ethical pickle, if you ask me. It's
Yeah,
very difficult to explain. So from a scientific perspective, it makes perfect sense. If you want to evolve yourself to a point where you don't get any more diseases, you have to test. There's no other option. I can't just, CRISPR exists. You are able to design.
yeah,
You are able to manipulate genes, and okay. So personally, I hold dogs under a very high esteem. So for me, dogs are not like other animals. Like a dog is like
yeah,
a dog. So
yeah,
for me, dog and the rest of the animals. So no testing on dogs. I'm very don't hurt
yeah,
dogs. But if you think about it, that's again an ethical thing for me. Uh, if you want to move forward as a civilization, you have to accept that at the end of the day, we do not accept cloning. We do not accept the so-called designer babies because it scares us,
yeah,
right? Because we become irrelevant then. If there is a human being that has been artificially designed, that human being would be good in looks, he'll be good in athletics, he'll be good as a student, he'll have a high IQ, he'll have a high EQ, he'll be the epitome of human civilization. I mean, you
true.
can't get better than that, and that scares us because then we will become irrelevant. So
I
if there's
yeah, I also remember in so Kunal Shah, who was the founder of Free Charge, he had one session webinar sorts. It was called Biology of Money, and
Mhm.
then it's there on YouTube. Maybe you can check it out. And there he mentions that we have been actually doing natural selection. I mean, this designer baby since a long time in terms of how we choose our mates. You know,
Yes,
because it is designed. We choose to go with people whom we want to, or maybe our parents. Choose okay, you should go with this guy because he has more money. More money means probably he's smart, at least in terms of earning money. More educated means he might have an high IQ and stuff like that. So that's a very interesting point he mentioned about designer babies, and then he erupted and said that hey, we have been designing babies since a long time, but as you can say, call it a manual method versus a complete high tech method. That's what he distinguished it as. So
true,
that was
true.
like fascinating when he said.
I think that makes a lot of sense. In fact, I agree. We've been doing this for a very long time. In ancient times, people used to prefer partners who were physically strong, which is why they say that athletes today are way stronger compared to athletes maybe 10,000 or 20,000 years ago because
Mm.
of that selective gene
Yeah,
propagating further. And that is how
yeah,
they say the IQ of human beings is gradually increasing as well. If you choose a
yeah,
partner,
that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you're in certain communities, they
yeah,
prefer intelligence over athleticism. So those
yeah,
communities tend to become smarter, while the other communities which prefer athleticism, I'm
yeah,
sorry,
whatever it is. Yeah.
screwing it up, over smartness, grow up to be more, stronger physically.
Same might be with actors, actresses, right? I mean, an actor dates an actor. So
Huh.
two good-looking people, let's say Karina and Saif, their baby is really cute, and I'm very sure this baby is going to be really good looking. I mean, it was obvious that he was going to be really good looking and really chubby, of snow white fair and everything. So
Exactly.
both of them are like that. So yeah, I guess that makes sense now. So, moving on to the next point, like homosexuality, faster ejaculation, and female infertility are common in zoo kingdom but taboo for humans. So, this was in that this sex and all wala chapter, and there it was, the most important part was the homosexuality part. That it's actually very common in, and probably in some cases she said it was preferred or something. And then, but I think most I think why it is considered taboo is because psychologically, we really be with people, like the primary reason is for reproduction, right? And if you're in same sex thing, then that
Doesn't
will
make
not
sense.
happen. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's why probably it has been termed as taboo, so as to maintain that, what we call the law of nature, apparently. But I think also that. Uh, this being there in the animal kingdom shows that the very basis of being with someone, mating with someone, is on basis of emotions. She did mention at places where it was only about sex, in certain animals where they mate and they go away, and I think in honeybees they kill, or she mentioned all those things, which was very barbaric. But in some where she mentioned about homosexuality, I think it was more about emotions, because those animals were with both. Uh, they were okay with females as well, and she mentioned there were occasions when they were with males as well.
Mhm.
So it is that's probably where the emotion might really come into picture, because it's obvious there's no reproductive thing really happening over there. And I think but where humans have a privilege, I would say, is that if in today's times, even homosexual couples can give an offspring, right? They can have a surrogate mother, they can have IVFs, they can adopt, plain and simple. So probably that's where we have an advantage over continuing of a species, even if homosexuality is a part of it, but probably not in the animal kingdom. They can't really do that. So yeah, what do you think about that?
I think homosexuality, like you said, is very common in the animal kingdom. Penguins, for example, two
Yeah.
male penguins will easily come together and take care of a stranded egg. And I think essentially that's what we are doing today also. Two homosexual partners come together, either they have a surrogate baby or they adopt a kid, which is essentially the same thing that you are doing. And I'm going to say something controversial here. I think the main reason why homosexuality is a taboo in our society is primarily because, like I said, humans fear what they do not understand. And you
Yeah.
made it very, very clear that because it doesn't make sense to us. The whole purpose of two people bonding with each other is eventually reproduction. That is how a species survives. So reproduction is a part of every species, goal, biologically
Mhm.
speaking.
Right.
Uh, but because it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of leaders of people, they deem it taboo. They deem it, completely wrong or satanic or barbaric or whatever. But from a biological perspective, if it was actually truly against the law of nature, biology and evolution would not have let it survive. Right? The
Yeah.
fact that it still exists means that it's not against the law of nature. It might be less common, but it's not against the law.
Definitely. She also mentioned about female infertility. Infertility, I think that word also is described by humans only, right? But in animal kingdom, the more she mates with other species, the more there are chances for her babies to survive, for her offsprings to be probably more better than the previous one, or it's that logic. But I think maybe we don't consider that because we are more civilized. I think. I'm not sure if that really can take place in our society, but because we are probably very much evolved compared to them, we don't have this thing of survival. I think, we don't really reproduce for survival. Wherein we are reproducing because we want to ensure that the species remains. That's not the idea when two people get married and have kids and all. So probably because of that cultural difference, this this thing might not be in our society, and of course in some societies it is there. Not in all these human societies it is considered as taboo, I think. But for females it might be, but not for males for sure.
Mhm.
I don't want to name anything, but there are certain societies where it is more than one, and in especially in olden era, the
Yes.
kings had more than one, two, three, four wives and stuff like that, Mughals and all. So probably that's was a difference over there.
True.
What do
Definitely. So I think the idea of monogamy is a very psychological idea. We all have grown up in this society where monogamy is considered to be a good virtue. But if you look at olden times, 60,000 years ago or whatever, the main idea was survival. You know, the the other virtues came later. First you have to survive, and that is where polygamy was very popular at that time. It was not frowned upon. It was considered normal. Even among females, polygamy was not a big deal. And I think you can see this example in the animal kingdom as well when you talk about a pride of lions. Whenever a new so what happens in a pride of lion is there will be one male lion who will be the alpha, and there'll be some couple of female lions, and that male lion will breed with all the female lions. He'll have their offsprings. Now, what happens is if another lion takes over that tribe, the first thing he does is he kills all the cubs, and then he remates with all the other lionesses. So I think the idea of infidelity in animal kingdom is also there. But yeah, I mean, not in the sense that so infidelity is natural in the animal kingdom is what I'm trying to say.
I also saw a video which was on Facebook. So I'm not sure if, of course, it was true because they were penguins. It was about penguins. There were two male penguins, one female penguin, and that female penguin went ahead with the other penguin. So penguins are supposed to be monogamous, I think,
Yeah.
at least mostly. So because the female penguin went ahead with another male penguin, the uh, other penguin started having a duel with the. It was a very bloody duel, yeah, it was a Facebook video, and I was like, first of all, I'm seeing this on Facebook, so I can't trust it. But then I was like, okay, these are penguins. It seems like a legit video, and there was this bloody fight, and the one who basically won then went ahead with the female, and then the other guy just went off. So yeah, I think the infertility is not really. Probably it varies from different to different species, and
Yeah,
for humans,
yeah.
different to
Now that
different
you
cultures.
mention it, maybe like if penguins are monogamous, then so maybe for a specific species, depending on the way it has evolved, monogamy and polygamy might be a concept.
Okay, coming to the eighth point about it was about drugs, its effect and how we can have it produced naturally by healthy competition and exercise. So this was a very fascinating chapter, because she mentioned a very she generalized drugs and what we do for motivation. She literally was like, we do drugs because it replaces the motivation of not motivation exactly, but the euphoria of doing. Let's say we did some work, we achieved something, we came first, or we the food after eating a good food, we the euphoria we feel. So it's basically just a replacement of that, and she mentioned that people become addicted to this because they don't have to do anything. It's like a shortcut to achieve that sort of an euphoria. So that was very fascinating. I never thought it that way. I thought probably people did that because of the kind of trance effect that it gives them. It helps them relax and everything. I thought it was because of that, but she gave a very great perspective that no, it's actually because you can get the same effect if you are, let's say, you came first in the class, or if you did a long project and you finally feel recognized in front of people, or when you eat good food after when you're very hungry, and when I look back, it's actually true because after you achieve something, you feel relaxed. Okay, fine, now it's done. And after for the next 2, 3 days, you will be like, Yeah, I mean, I can just rest for some time, and you'll sleep for 2 3 days, and then you get back to work. So it's actually did make sense. Maybe the effect might not be that. It kind of compresses, drugs compress that whole effect of 2 3 days into one single hour or whatever number of hours the drug stays. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's true. So the feeling of euphoria is actually what they call a dopamine rush in your body, right? And whenever you achieve something, like even if it's an achievement in your eyes, you'll get that rush. So and she's right. Drugs actually, they're like a shortcut. They chemically induce that uh, situation where you get the dopamine rush, and it's like a shortcut to getting that euphoric state, which is why people get more addicted to it. So uh, dopamine is very addictive in nature. I mean, you the more you get it, the more you want it. uh, the first time I opened my Instagram page, I got 100 followers. I had that dopamine rush. So same thing. I agree with her, and I think the best way to counter that is to uh, yeah, so you need to keep getting that sense of achievement, which is not easy, because eventually your brain gets used to that level of dopamine, and then you want a new to increase that level of dopamine. That's the same way as caffeine works, right? And I think that is where people take more and more drugs. So today I took one LSD pill, 1 week down the lane, one LSD pill doesn't make any more sense. I need to take two of them. Yeah, I think that is how it works. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, so I was saying that in this discussion point, I think it's mentioned how we can have it produced naturally by healthy competition and exercise. So
Right.
yeah, that's definitely fascinating. I never thought of it this way. Probably I knew that it does cause dopamine effect, exercise and everything, but probably that's why they. I think she had mentioned a very interesting point that the groups who want to get away from drugs. I'm not sure what they're called. Forgot the name. It's very popular, but they rehab centers. Yeah, so rehab centers have these rituals of exercising and making them learn new skills and having shared experiences together. They form a circle and they talk together and all. Probably that's where it really, I guess, comes from. Uh, of the point mentioned here that it has to be replaced by natural.
I think there are a lot of such things in the book, like you knew about it, but never really thought about it.
Yeah, right. Okay, so coming to the conclusion, like, would you recommend this book to someone? So I would to say I would definitely recommend the book. If you, for example, I had started reading The Power of Subconscious Mind,
Mhm.
and then I became very bored after that. Because he was repeating the same thing, and at one point he started mentioning things which I didn't believe. There's this point in which he mentioned that somebody faced car accident because they thought that about that car accident, and then I was like, no, that's not how it happens. So that's why I had this very. That's why I don't pick up self help a lot. But I think this book can certainly give a lot of perspectives. And you can definitely couple it up with some of the TED talks and some more literature around genes and it's high time probably we accept the fact that whatever we do when think and all is because of the genes and how our genes are interacting with our environment, and it's not really some weird external force or something like that. It's because of us only in the end of the day. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this book and watch the YouTube video and probably a few other TED talks which where Barbara is a part of the panel or is being interviewed. What do you think about it?
So, well, to be honest, I haven't really finished this book yet. Uh, but having said that, there are a lot of elements similar to. So, I'm a big fan of Sapiens. I really love the concepts, the ideas, the way of explaining, and so far, what I've read in the book is definitely very interesting to think about, very interesting to know. And now, again, I would say it's not for everybody. It is for people who are curious about the connection between humans and animals, the way we have evolved. Anyone who's even remotely interested in those ideas, the commonalities between us, should definitely read this book. It's definitely something they should pick it up.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned very summarize is really correct. If you think in that, all is one and one is all
Yes.
concept, then I think definitely this book should be a pickup for them. So, yeah, with this, I think we would conclude. I think you've read *Sapiens*, so I'm just curious because you mentioned,
Mhm.
that. Did you find any similarities between what Barbara is saying and what you will is saying?
One thing, so not really a similarity, but something I could draw parallels to. When we talked about animal testing and all, right? Now, a lot of animals haven't gone extinct because we have included them in our lifestyle, right? For example, chicken. Uh, it's become it's essentially become a business, poultry, right? And the only reason why chickens are still there is because of the poultry business. And the best example of that is that humans, okay, so our species seems, as per the research, has originated from one place in Africa, right? And if you think about it, there are lions and tigers and elephants in Africa, and it doesn't make a lot of sense that one cell evolved in the same way throughout the world. An elephant became an elephant in India, an elephant became an elephant in Africa, an elephant became an elephant in North America. It doesn't make a lot of sense because cells don't evolve that way. They adapt to the surroundings that they have. And that is true. That at one point of time, there were a lot of different types of species. There were marsupial animals. In Asia, there were different types of animals. In South America, there were different types of animals. Australia had a completely different set of, animals. And we humans went there and we killed everybody for food or for sport, whatever the reason. And it's still happening. Lots of species keep going extinct because of poaching, and or we make them food. So I think that is one parallel I drew. That this was mentioned in the first few chapters of *Sapiens*. That the reason why there are certain animals that are still alive and not extinct is because we have converted them into a business.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I haven't read *Sapiens*. It's in my to-be read list for a very long time.
Hmm.
Uh, I couldn't really pick it up because a lot of people mentioned me that it's a boring book and it's very long.
It's a
But
big book.
then,
Definitely
is
a
it?
big book. It's a big book.
It's a
It's not.
big book.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it boring, but it's scientific because Yuval Noah Harari, who is the author, has referred to each and every research paper that he referred to uh, before writing that particular piece of text. So everything that he has written is very well researched and probably true, but that also makes it very technical. And it personally took me a lot of time. I'm not proud of saying this, but it took me almost a year to finish that book.
That's a huge time.
Yeah.
Probably it will take more to me because I'm very slow reader that way. I mean, didn't even finish. I finished this only till the facts wala chapter,
Uh,
and I have to. I'll definitely be finishing this one because this is very interesting, and she's, explained in a very simple way to understand. Great. It was great having you. We've finished with our discussion points, and definitely do join with us again. So basically, I'll give a brief to everyone who's listening to us what Merrative is. So we have just created a platform. It's a discussion platform basically, which keeps books and articles as a basis for a discussion. So we basically connect you with people who have read the same book or article as you have, not just for books. Like we say, it's also for articles. It can be news articles, it can be scientific articles, it can be books like these, like Zoobiquity and all, fiction, non-fiction. There's literally no barriers, and we connect you with people who have read the same book or article, or find people who would read together with you to, to a discussion like just how we had. And we also facilitate private discussions as well. This is a live one, but we also facilitate you to go private on a platform. And also, you can create, if you don't want to really meet people by chance or don't have time, but you can create threads. Basically, it's like forum sort of system on the platform where you can just share your reviews about books. There are a lot of people who share the reviews of their books that they have written, not sorry, the books that they have read, and then people who have read the same get notified, on our platform, and basically they can join the conversation list as the threads and share their opinions on the same. So that's what Merrative is about. And if anyone would like to discuss any book article, they just have to ping us, or they can create it. Uh, the hosting part is something that where we first, we verify the host first, and then we give them the hosting access. But since both of you, Gautam and you are already seasoned, have your book lovers groups and all, I think that would be easy access. And this is just we are doing because we don't want anyone to spam with weird discussions, So running social network is difficult. So we
Yeah.
don't want it to go at. Abhi say we don't want to become some political place or something like that. So that's why we verify the host. So yeah, do join us again. Do suggest books that should be discussed. And yeah, thank you so much. It would have been great if Gautam was also there. Unfortunately, he couldn't join in between. And yeah, good night and have a good day.
Thanks a lot, Harshal. It was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, same here, same here.
See you.